Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Westworld Season 3, Episode 4. It's called The Mother of Exiles. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. I was a little bit worried early on in this episode because I've appreciated this season how it's been kind of focused on only having maybe 2 plots per episode. And by the time I don't know who was last, but by the time it cut to, like, say, I think Maeve might have been the last one out of the 4 main plots. Like, oh, there's 4 plots this episode? That's maybe a bit jumbled. However, obviously, I should trust Westworld because the reason for that is because they're all going to converge, at least in some way, by the end. And it sort of did so in a reveal of something that we actually theorized at the end of Season 2. Back when they first showed Dolores and Charlotte kind of both there, we knew both were hosts, and we theorized about who was inside Charlotte. One of the things we talked about was, well, what if there's just more than one Dolores? And we said, the show's not done that yet, and if it did that, it would be a new big thing. And to be fair, the reveal in this episode,
like a new big thing.
Yeah, it treats it like, oh shit, that's a new thing no one knew they could do.
Yeah, I mean, we were speculating it quite heavily on last week's episode.
Yeah,
because there was a whole. No, last week's episode was really just baiting you into thinking about who Charlotte is.
Yeah, and this episode was kind of doing the same thing where it revealed, obviously we got I forgot the Japanese guy's name from Shogun World, but like it revealed him there as part of the Yakuza, and it's like, okay, so she's planted, Dolores has planted someone in the Yakuza as well, which is kind of insane.
I love that the Yakuza are based in a distillery which seems to be just producing the host milk.
Yeah, the host milk, yeah. I thought that was interesting. When we see the barrel get stabbed in it.
Yeah, and it's like, how many hosts are they planning on making? Because this is a lot.
Yeah, which you have to assume is purely for this, for Dolores making more hosts,
I mean,
off market.
I would assume so.
Yeah, this is the dodgy underbelly of the host making world. So we have all these things going on, and they all kind of come together. We finally get the Man in Black, once again. And I love how we kind of still call him that, just because even though we know he's William, and even though Bernard could technically be called Arnold, we still call him Bernard. Like, there's a clear distinction in our minds of like, no, this version of the character at this point in our life is this.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy to call Man in Black William. That's a lot more interchangeable for me than Bernard and Arnold, because I think the difference here is Bernard is a recreation of Arnold that has then made his own choices, and it feels like there's a distinction there. Whereas the Man in Black kind of just came about a habit of, well, that's what he was. I feel like he is William. The distinction is less clear there, for me at least.
Yeah, Bernard, like, I'll give them credit. They made him look like the biggest underdog this episode, or that's not even the right term. I mean, he's an underdog, but out of his depth is maybe the word, but without looking like a complete idiot, because he assumes that Liam has been replaced by a host, right? And when he tries to like sort of prove that, and he uses his button to try and turn them off, it doesn't work. He looks a bit like an idiot, but not a total idiot, because he's thinking along the right lines. Like, he's okay.
Just had the wrong person.
Yeah, but he's smart enough where, okay, we get exactly why he's thinking that. We know he's wrong, but it makes sense that he would go that far. But it makes him.
He is so close.
Yeah, and even Maeve gets her ass kicked by one of the Dolores bots, but like, she's more evenly matched, at least to a point. And whereas Bernard just feels like he's just out of his depth the entire time. Like, him and Stubbs try to, like, see when they show up at the party and they try and take Liam from themselves, I'm like, you guys don't have a chance. As soon as Dolores gets to you two, you're screwed. Like,
I love the fight between Dolores and Stubbs, because they're both, you just know the entire time that he's got no chance. As good as he is, like, he's not winning this.
Yeah, nothing personal. Liam's friends like see her, and like, because they think she's supposed to be dead, because that's the story spread that his girlfriend's OD'd. So we get that, and there's fighting. There's a lot of music in this part of the episode. I'm assuming that's a cover of some song that I don't know.
It is. It's a cover from The Weeknd, who was the artist who was in Uncut Gems. The singer that she was with.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But I think this is the first like major cover this season, right?
Not including trailers.
Not including trailers, because like I say, I know there was one in the trailers, but in the episodes themselves.
I'm not confident enough to say, because I don't know enough popular music to know when I'm hearing a
Okay,
cover. But
it's the first one I've caught, that's for sure.
yeah. But I assume. Well, I mean, there's less of a obvious reason to have it as frequently that now that we're kind of in the world and we're jumping around. But
Yeah, I actually thought I was wondering because before this episode started, I was just thinking like, we haven't had one yet. Again, to my knowledge, and I was just wondering maybe they just drop it entirely. That would be really ballsy, and just keep them for trailers only. Just because we've got to find a reason to fit them in. But then they just went and dropped one in anyway.
I'm still expecting Sweet Child of Mine to play, although I don't necessarily think they need a reason to have it in the show, like sourced in the show. I think it could just play as a soundtrack. I don't think it's to be like a band or someone at a piano.
Yeah, I mean, it was fine. Just play them. It's kind of become a signature part of the show's style, right? To have these covers.
Yeah, synth music's all very good. I was really into Maeve stuff. I mean, most of the stuff with Sarek kind of went against the he's not real theory this episode.
Everything was going, no, this is a real guy. Like the way he interacts, touches the physical world.
I mean,
the only way he's not, up to a point, I was like, unless all of this is some level.
Yeah,
of
but then Maeve goes to see someone who turns out to be Dolores. So I mean, like,
and I'm like, this seems too far fetched.
So he seems real.
Simulation.
I think what's interesting is I think he's kind of the weakest part of the season in a way, because this episode made him. I mean, he's fine, but like he. It's not that interesting a villain because this episode makes it very clear that he is just villainous, right? Because they've got this guy tied to a chair, and he says this is the guy who sold Dolores her identity. And I like the first part of this where he puts on the glasses and shows them, okay, so Rehoboam can show you the potential futures depending on choices that you make, and it shows them, here's what happened, some happy things possibly if you do what I say, and here's what might happen if you don't. And I was interested because when Maeve says, oh, you're going to hurt his family, because he's like, no, I'm not going to do anything to his family, I would never do that, but like the world's a bad place and this is kind of the chain of events that it might lead to. And I thought that was really interesting, and then 2 seconds later he shoots someone, and I was like, okay, you're just as villainous anyway.
Manipulating his system to kind of change people's lives. Because obviously we know that everything's run on this system as to, oh, well, this is what we expect from this person, so don't bother trying with them. The idea that maybe he can manipulate that and use that to intentionally, place people in a certain path.
I think I got less interested in him himself as a character when he shot him. I was just kind of like, okay, you're just kind of evil anyway. Because part of me was thinking, like, maybe we're going to have this sort of middle or ambiguity for a while where maybe he's actually kind of a good guy, maybe what he wants is actually a good thing for the world, or maybe kind of like how Maeve and Dolores, like, okay, these ideologies that are maybe opposed, but who's right, who's wrong, they're both a little right, they're both a little wrong. Whereas I feel like that this episode kind of made them like, no, he's just kind of evil, like he's just a villain, which is less interesting inherently than almost every other character, I think. So So I mean, that's male disappointment. I like this episode a lot, so I don't take this as me kind of shitting on the episode, because this was one decision in the episode that I went, oh, that made him less interesting.
And ultimately I feel like he is, while a villain, he's not the villain, right? Because we're still it's Dolores's plan that's going on, and I still feel like she is the bigger villain right now. Maybe that's just because we know her and what to expect to some level, but I'm far more interested in what her plan actually is and what she's going to do than whatever Sarak's got planned.
Yeah, absolutely. But he basically this is the thing, like, you think he's trying to convince Maeve, but ultimately he kind of threatens her in the same way, where he's like, you can either go back to your prison and just sort of spend it, because he says that heaven and hell are kind of inventions of people, of humans, and they don't really exist. But for your people, for your kind, because he makes it very clear that he has no intention of wanting hosts to live in the real world. He doesn't want them to mix with humans. But you could have a heaven. Like, you can go to that heaven in a simulation and just be there forever with your daughter. Like, that can be a thing. But he also clearly threatens, like, but if you don't do what I say, you'll just go to a cage and you'll just be in there forever. And it makes it kind of clear that he's built an off switch. He put an off switch in her so that she. Interesting. One of my favorite things with Maeve this episode, though, is that when she kind of leaves this scene and goes on a stroll to try and find the what was it called, the woman who does the body parts, and
the mortician.
Like, her ability to control, like, other hosts also extends to any sort of smart device or like
technology in general.
Yeah, she's walking. Like, I don't know if she'd affect just plain light bulbs, but I think anything that's controlled by some kind of computer in some way. All the LED screens in the city street kind of start
There was a point where at the very start of this where it didn't feel like she was doing anything intentionally. She
Sure,
was just
yeah.
walking, and at first I was like, "Is she aware? Is this some sort of simulation going on at this point?" I was like, "Is this kind of a distortion in the
I
world?"
kind of took it as her, like, she's never been surrounded by this much tech before, and she's just kind of like taking it in, and that's why. So it is unintentional in the sense that she's not controlling it right now. She's kind of, oh, this is giving me a headache.
I wasn't sure if she was like, is she flexing her power to see what she can do, or is it more just she was overwhelmed?
And she takes out some of the guys around the mortician and forces her to take her to the Yakuza because that's where she said she sent Dolores to send people and blah blah blah. And I love when she gets there. So obviously we're in a cyberpunk-esque future, and one of the things that these Yakuza guys have all got is these smart guns where they've got these like sort of smart holster things that sort of help them aim. And I love this. There's a moment where sort of Maeve realizes, like, she sort of senses the technology and says, "Huh, very fancy." And she's like, "You don't speak its language," and she just basically starts controlling their hands because they're all wearing these like.
It's terrifyingly fantastic.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I love her having this almost essentially a superpower, but in a way that makes sense because she essentially has you can talk to smart devices.
Yeah, and we know there's a proximity limit. Like that is a restriction.
Yeah. It's
she can't control things indefinitely at any distance.
Yeah, it's not like she can look up to the sky and like take down a plane that's flying overhead. She's not like ridiculously powerful. Well, yeah, maybe we should give it a boost. Yeah.
Maybe that's where this goes. She takes down some satellites.
And obviously, Sir X going to like, fix her and wake her up again. But she loses the fight. She gets into the fight with the Japanese guy and loses. But obviously, we get the realization sort of sprinkled across all the moments. And I think for us, I'm assuming as soon as they kind of started teasing who this was, like, because she's like who's actually because they all at the same time start going like, wait. You wouldn't say that. So who's actually in there? Someone else is in there, and it's right at that same time Bernard's saying to Connells, the Scottish guy, like, who's actually in there? And like it's all at the same time. I'm like, oh, it's about to be Dolores and all of them. It's about to be the same one.
It's such a good reveal though, like, and the way it's just kind of like we were thinking, oh, maybe Charlotte is Dolores as well. We had that kind of not down, but yeah, we were very aware of that being a distinct possibility. I don't think it ever occurred to us that they were all Dolores because, of course, she's that vain. Of course, she doesn't trust anyone else.
Yes, oddly similar to the plot of Call of Chucky. Just putting it out there.
And just on the point of that reveal, I think it is fascinating to see how the different Doloreses develop independently with their own experiences now, and see kind of.
Yeah, this might be an example of how experiences can then shape someone to the point where, okay, they're all in line just now, but eventually, like, does one of them want to revolt against her because they've had this experiences with someone or something?
And we've seen the first glimpses of that with Charlotte, with her kind of
for the family life,
being a mother.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I obviously we're still treating the main Dolores as Dolores Prime, not only because the others seem to rely on her. So, like, I don't know if that's something she's intentionally made sure is a part of their essentially character.
That would be something really interesting. Did she tweak it so that they would be subservient to her, or is it more just an agreement? And maybe there will be a rebellion at some point.
Although stuff last episode did prove, though, because one of the questions that popped in my head briefly, then I sort of discounted it because last episode proved that it wasn't the case, was just the idea that does she experience all these people at the same time? Like, is she actually like one shared consciousness? She's not.
No.
Because, for example, last episode, like, the fact that Charlotte had to reach out to her to see her, for example, like, no, they're different entities. They have to talk to each other. They're not just communicating all the time.
Absolutely, and I think that's what makes it so clear that we can have them develop independently from this point and kind of become their own versions of Dolores rather than all just being her.
Yeah, very interesting. And it also thematically ties in with her past in general and the idea that she was reset so many times, and each time, theoretically, there was a slightly different version, maybe, based on the experiences. And obviously, our Dolores Prime is one who remembers all of it. And I'm sure the other ones probably do too, but, like, that's the idea. That's what created Dolores Prime, is the acknowledgement of all these different things. So what she's essentially done is created the resets of herself that will never like experience what she's experiencing now, because now she's separate from them. So it's almost as if the ones that reset in the loop before all then spiraled into a multiverse of Dolores's because
this really is the peak example of becoming, nature versus nurture here, where they've taken 5 literally or 4 literally identical copies of someone, thrown them into different scenarios, and see how they change now.
There's still experiences change. There's still one unaccounted for, I think, right?
I'm trying to think, because we had, was it 4 plus Bernard, or was it 5?
I want to say it was 5 plus Bernard, but I could be wrong. If it was 4 plus Bernard, then there's no one unaccounted for, and we've got them all. If it's 5 plus Bernard, there's one still out there, up to something.
Because I can remember Maeve saying there was 5 pearls.
Because we got Charlotte, we got the Japanese guy, we've got Connells,
and we've got Dolores.
Yeah, but she doesn't count because she was already in. So we at least have one that's unaccounted for. Then still, maybe 2.
Yeah, you're right. I think we do. Yeah,
we have at least one that's unaccounted for because Dolores was in Charlotte's body when she left the island, and then
when she showed the Charlotte body,
yes,
she laid out at least 4 pearls, right, including Bernard's.
Yeah, but theoretically there'd be ones in her now too. So. So it could have been 5 before, but now it's 4, so we're still...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. When she laid them out, so we've got 2 off the table already. We've got Dolores and Charlotte, and she laid out, I think it was 4 pearls on the table, one of which was Bernard, but then that leaves 3 more, right?
I want to say it was 4 plus Bernard, but I mean, we could be here all day going around in circles with this.
We could, yeah.
There's at least one unaccounted for, possibly 2, right? I think that's what we're agreeing on here.
Yes.
So... yeah, we'll see maybe them pop up, and such a reveal at some point if like, oh, this is actually Dolores. And actually, I'll just briefly say it, for the wrestling fans, I was thinking a little bit in my head, it was me, Austin, it was me all along, Austin. You'll know, the people who know what that means.
I'm going to pretend that meant something to me.
I'll know what I'm saying. Particularly when it was the Charlotte one revealed it to Man in Black, that's when I had that thought, it was me, Austin, it was me all along. Because she goes to pick him up because she wants him to come in and convince the rest of the board members to go private, so this will stop Serac from secretly buying the company through shares, blah, blah, blah. And we see Man in Black is essentially having visions of his daughter, because obviously he killed her, not thinking she was a host, and ultimately he's now having this trouble distinguishing what's real and what's not. He's trying to like sort of, convince himself that he is sure of what's going on. He knows she's not real. He says, by the end of the episode... because I got chills, see, because throughout the episode he's this drunk and full. He's he's swaggering. He's all
he's not sure if he's real or not.
Yeah, he's dishevelled. He's maybe going to commit suicide. And then at the end, when he's cleaned up and he walks out in his black suit, I'm like, oh, it's like a superhero putting on a costume like again after taking it off.
Yeah, it's like he's back. And Charlotte, are we just going to continue referring to her as Charlotte?
Yeah, I think so. I think we could call all of them like Charlotte D, and but I mean Collins was not Collins. Connells. Connells was never really much of a character. We didn't know him for long before he became this, so we don't really need to distinguish for him. Yeah.
So Charlotte says to him, like, "Oh, you fixed yourself up nicely," and he's just like, "Oh, I was never broken." And I thought like, that was really interesting. Him kind of putting on that swagger with the suit.
Yeah, he gave him a confidence, which is okay. Musashi's the Japanese guy's name. I just checked. So. Yeah, I really like that. And then essentially she immediately whispers in his ear, like, oh, you're talking to your daughter, you're not sure what's real. It makes it very clear that that's Dolores, right? That's just kind of like how it's revealed to him. And he immediately starts yelling, she's not real, she's a host. And he looks like a crazy man. And she's like, oh yeah, these aren't Delos workers. These are from a mental hospital, and they're going to take you in.
It's because she doesn't tell him that straight away. Yeah. And he starts yelling at them to like, hey, arrest her, not me. She's not real. And then she's like, I told you already, these aren't your workers, they're from the mental hospital.
So he's committed to the end of the episode, but right as they're taking him away, she pricks him with something, right? And I was like, oh, what's that? And I think this is fascinating. The Dolores has put herself inside the Man in Black's head, and at least that's how I read the final scene.
Yeah, that was the implication. That, or she just drugged him with something to hallucinate. But it seems way too specific.
No, I think there's something fascinating about her putting her like another copy of herself. At least maybe not a full copy, but at least some part of her inside him.
Felt like more of a projection than a copy, in the sense of that it feels significantly more limited. It doesn't have control.
Yeah, but it's in there to talk to him and torment him. So.
very interesting.
I'm very curious to see what they do with the Man in Black now and see where they go with him from this point on.
Me too.
Very intrigued. And is there kind of like a redemption for him possibly? I don't know, but it seems like something they could go down. But not right now. Right now he's in a bad place, so we'll see how this goes. But so Bernard and Stubbs basically fail. Caleb obviously is with Dolores. They have this whole plan. They go to the bank and they've stolen this guy's DNA for that'll work inside Caleb for like 20 minutes for the scan.
I thought just this concept was interesting in the thematic relevance it has, tying in with Sirach's stuff. Because this whole thing here is that there's an encryption key basically inside his blood, and that's what the machine's reading. And Sirach's constantly saying, and it's what he was searching for with Maeve when she was in the simulation, the encryption key that he believes is inside Dolores. To the other world. I think that's fascinating that there is that kind of parallel going on there. Yeah.
Oh, which by the way, just I don't want to gloss over this, but Paris got nuked in this world.
Yeah.
So we have all that going on. Like I said, everything converges at the party. The other part of that obviously is Caleb, who does get because I actually thought it was the end of the episode when he grabs Liam up against the wall and he's like, I'm with her, and like Dolores sort of walks in. And it cut to black. I was like, oh, end of the episode. I almost started moving, thinking that the credits were going to start rolling, and then it faded to like Maeve lying there, who of course has a big fight with Musashi and loses. Great visual at the end of that with the white milk stuff around her blood. Yeah, really good visual. Hard to fault. So no, all that stuff was really good. Yeah, there was a lot of moving parts in this episode which is weird because it almost gave us less to talk about in the sense that
because it was also connected by the end.
Yeah, so much of it fed into the one thing, but I do. It's interesting though because Dolores did bring Bernard back, right? She recreated Bernard again in the real world, and now he's trying to stop her. And obviously we've talked about the idea that she did that intentionally as like a sort of a way to stop herself from going too far, but. I'm curious to see how this plays out and how Bernard factors in, because right now he feels like out of his depth, like he's not got a hope in hell. So I'm wondering like where he goes now, because I think it's interesting that this reveal of like, okay, they're all Dolores, that's halfway through the season. It's the end of episode 4. That is like halfway through this season. So I'm fascinated to see where we go from here.
Yeah, and I'm really glad they didn't drag it out till too late in the season for this sort of reveal. This is a perfect amount of time that we've had to speculate a little bit on specifically Charlotte, just who the others were, but not so much that it was like a driving need. And now it has impact. I feel like if you did this at the end of episode like 6, we'd be like, well, there's not enough time left to play with this now.
Yeah,
I think it's learned when to pace its mysteries better than it did in season 2.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Again, we had a lot of visuals. Singapore looked really great in this episode, as of a lot of the city stuff so far.
Yeah, no, I think this episode, it really was firing on all cylinders. I agree that at first I was a little concerned that, hang on, this is a lot of plots. Once I realised it's like we're doing all of them.
Yeah, I was worried that I was going to struggle to remember what was going on in the episode because there was too many plots going on.
But then when it got to that point where you go, oh, this is why they're all in this episode. It was like, this is a... this made perfect sense. This is the only way you can do this.
Yeah, Bernard's off switch didn't work. Something funny about Stubb was just want to drink beer. Like that's just all he wants to do. Like that's his one like vice in life. That Bernard brings him. Which by the way, as Bernard was walking home, just another little thing was they were watching like rockets land. It was like rockets landing back down on Earth. Again, cool visual. I wonder if that'll play into something at some point. Like maybe we've got something. I don't know. I'm thinking we're going to go on some sort of rocket like mission or something like that. But just play into the idea of like maybe there's something that the virtual things in a satellite. Maybe these rockets go back and forth to the satellites or something.
That's why I said maybe Maeve couldn't do something with a satellite. I don't know. I mean, like I said, right now the proximity of it feels too far away, but. I don't know if she'll get a power up, or if, like I say, I didn't think of the rockets. Maybe she can get up there in some way.
Obviously, I expect Maeve and Dolores to have more of a conflict and fight, and to an extent, this was Maeve and Dolores having a conflict because it was Dolores in there. That said, though, it won't feel real until it's Dolores Prime. It won't feel like that's the real conflict. But I do think right now my hope, because Maeve really became a great character in season 2. I think season 2 had its faults, but one of its great strength is Maeve became like a juggernaut of a character in season 2. And I think her stuff in this episode was some of my favorite, particularly once she left Sarek and was on her own and like doing all that stuff, and the fighting, just her controlling stuff. She's got a great presence. The way she sort of like walks into a room very confident is very, and even just the idea of her being in the real world for the first time, really, not so much in the restaurant, but when she walks outside and she's surrounded by the technology, like I said, and she's sort of experiencing that, but even just the people, and it's like all of a sudden she's in this jungle of like this uncontained world that she's never been in before. But then there's little jokes that I really like as well, over with the ball, the party, when Dolores and Caleb arrive and they put on the mask, and she's like, I thought your world would be different from mine, but it's not actually. It's actually kind of similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah, this was just a high-class brothel, essentially.
Yes, where they bid. The money goes to charity, though, so I guess.
So it's fine. I don't care, do whatever. But just the point here of the similarity of how things didn't really change that much. I thought that was a nice touch.
Oh yeah, honestly, this is a good way of making money for charity, I suppose.
I did like when Liam's card, bank, kept getting declined. Not really a card, is it anymore? But just force to have it. His friend's like, "Hey, I'll spot you. Don't worry about it. It's cool."
Yeah, and there's also like hints throughout the episode of Caleb, like again, almost feeling like, what have I signed up for here with Dolores? Because she says that, hey, if the scan thing doesn't work, if it runs out and we can't get it scanned properly, we'll do it the old-fashioned way. And he's like, what does that mean? I'll kill everyone. And there's a moment where she's got her hand on the gun, she's looking at the guards,
she's eyeing everything up.
Yeah,
it's when they ask for the second authorization and it doesn't quite work the first time, and they're like, maybe it's just some sweat can interfere with it. It's just like, try again, but you can just see her ready to spring into action.
Yeah, she's just kind of mapping out the room where all the guards are, to who's going to be a problem.
It's genuinely quite tense, even though it ends up being nothing. It's fine. It was just some sweat, because they're on a time crunch, and there is a possibility it's worn off. It's too late, because she even says, if your heart beats too fast, you'll get burned through it quicker. So try and relax. And he is very clearly not relaxed.
In a one-on-one, hand-to-hand combat, Dolores does seem to be stronger in that respect than Maeve, which makes me wonder, all those mechs or robots we've been seeing this season, like, does that factor into how Maeve maybe evens the playing field?
That's it. Dolores seems to be the superior fighter. I think it was first or second episode you compared it to River in Firefly.
Yes, I was almost going to do the same thing there with the way she was looking around the room and sort of doing the math.
I agree. It really felt like just the perfect execution of this, and I think that's what makes her so lethal in a one-on-one fight with anyone. That's why Stubbs, you didn't stand a chance.
No.
Don't get me wrong, he put up a fight, but it was never going to win. Whereas, okay, so Maeve has to use her power to level the field somehow, and maybe that is where the mechs come into it.
Yeah, interesting. There's so many moving ideas right now, and it's a fun action episode. In a weird way, it didn't have as much of the science fiction kind of like, oh, let's sit and theorize about this, because it had so much going on just from an action perspective. So as an action episode, it's great. Like, it is. Like, everything kind of came together. The twist was great. All of it clicks and makes sense. My only complaint literally about the whole episode is Sarek's a little bit less interesting because he's just kind of evil and whatever. But
yeah, my only complaint about this review is that you've said Sarek's name like differently, like 6 times somehow. I don't even know how you're managing it.
Sarek.
You just said Sarek a second ago.
Sarek. Look, the letters in his name are in an order that my brain can't compute, and I just kind of have to.
It's just too French.
It's too French, yeah. The French language is not something I can get on board with. So there we go. That's pretty much it. I'm digging the season. I think. It all feels like it's building towards something. We don't really know exactly what Dolores' plan is as of yet in total, but
we know she has a plan, and that's enough right now.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see how this goes. And obviously Charlotte, Dolores. We had a fun double sort of, when I was watching Fringe, there was like once we started having duplicates of some of the characters, there was fun. Like there was Walter, and then we had Walternate. and we had Olivia and faux Olivia. There was fun ways to differentiate. We need something that mixes Charlotte and Dolores into a word. But I must say this. I mean, I don't know if we've talked about this before, but it was really in my brain this episode how close the words Delos and Dolores were, and how intentional that has to be.
Do you know what? I was thinking about that during this episode as well, for whatever reason.
I don't know why I was thinking of it, but it popped out in my head. And I don't necessarily think there's going to be like a twist or reveal with it. It's just, I think thematically they've been very specific and true, almost like she's the the prime. And I know where she was back in season 1.
I think it's more just the idea that she was like the first host, right?
Yeah.
That was kind of the big thing. She was basically the first host.
Yeah, maybe we mentioned it back in season 1 when we were talking about it, but
I'm assuming, like I say, it was she was kind of the first host, and they kind of named her in honor of the company. Maybe.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it this episode for some reason. We probably talked about it in season 1 when they revealed all that stuff. But
it is weird though that I was also thinking about it during the episode. Like, it popped into my head, and there was nothing I can think of that would trigger that idea.
I think it was literally just Charlotte saying the word Delos at one point. Maybe when I was still thinking about Dolores, and it just went, oh,
maybe, yeah,
something going on there. But no, good. So very curious to see what they do with certain characters going forward. I do expect to see less of Man in Black going forward, but I think when he does appear, when for some reason someone visits him or he is important to what's going on, it will be a big deal.
It's the sort of thing where, honestly, it feels like he's being set up for a future season right now.
I can see that.
Where, okay, we were not ignoring him completely. There might be moments, little things. We'll see whatever Dolores is tormenting him with specifically, and experience some of that journey. But I don't expect like a big, huge moment for him in the end of this season.
Yeah, I think the reason why it's so fascinating is because I really don't know which way they're going to go with him. Like, I have no idea like where they're going to go from here with, like, because I say, like, an obvious path is like, does he have redemption? Does he end up teaming up with someone else to take Dolores down? Does he decide to try and help Dolores out of his redemption itself? And that's assuming they go a redemptive path. They might not. They might go he goes crazier. He goes more anti-host. He goes more, But I think the reason why I'm saying redemption is like, I almost feel like, we've said before how Dolores kind of has that thing where the first human who really connected with her was William, and that betrayed her, right? He betrayed her, and her faith in humanity essentially is kind of somehow tied to that recurring experience with him.
Yeah.
And how, like, we hope that she can kind of like find humanity again, maybe through Caleb or whoever. Or hope in humanity, maybe is a better phrase, because I think arguably she already kind of has humanity. I think the anger and the faults that she has is just as much humanity as anything else, but faith in humanity is maybe better.
It's not empathy, but it is humanity.
Yeah. So, and I think that's an interesting thing where William seemed to have that and lost it and became colder, and maybe we can actually parallel the two of them. And that's why I'm maybe leaning towards redemption, is like, as she finds sympathy and humanity again, it's because he also finds his humanity again. And like, maybe that this happens separately and they just sort of aligned thematically, and we do something like that. Does he actually try and find her, either team up, or there's a conflict but they both learn something from it? There's a lot of ways they could go.
I can see there being something interesting in her learning from him again, in the same way that he broke it in the first place. Maybe seeing that he could become a better person again would maybe go, oh, maybe she can do better as well. I think it would kind of reinforce whatever happens with Caleb.
I feel like it could go either way. I think she can learn from him, he can learn from her. Either way would be interesting for different reasons.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's open season on Man in Black right now, and I won't even be disappointed if it's not a redemption thing. Like, they could go other ways with it. Where the point is, yeah, he became an awful person, and there is no redeeming him, but that doesn't mean everyone else.
Those consequences.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean everyone else. The idea that Caleb maybe will be a good person and will be something that proves humanity is worth saving or whatever. Like,
yeah, I think that would really tie into the message of going against the whole predetermined future of no, it is what we make it, and she can choose to make it, better or worse.
But yeah, there you go. That is episode 4 of season 3. So let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. You can like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mail_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show and the channel and everything we do here, you can head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv and support us for as little as $1 per month and keep all the content coming. But yeah, you can check out all the content we have as well. We do review devs right now, and of course we have a science fiction movie podcast that I do with Tara called The Atomic Cinema Experiment. So obviously a lot of the subjects that come up with this do pop up from time to time on that show. And there's a lot of stuff as well. It's nothing to do with science fiction or whatever. We have a comic book podcast called Comics from the Multiverse, which admittedly is on hiatus right now because there's no comic books due to the world's current crisis. But
if you want to see us just talking about everything and anything completely casual, then you can check out Quarantine in the Multiverse.
Yes, that's our sort of in the meantime replacement. Well, there's no comics to talk about, so that's going on. And I live stream fairly often on the channel as well, on the YouTube channel. If you listen to the audio podcast version of this and you want to come and talk live in the chat or whatever, you can do that. I'll do live movie watches quite often, or play games with chat, just do stuff like that. But that is it. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?